Hi, I'm Michael Ma, CEO of OnePassport. There's a lot of discussions in the paper, in government, all these things about vaccines, vaccine passports, domestic travel, international students, specific labour scheme, farm worker, Southeast Asian worker, farm workers, and they're being discussed in silos, but nothing happens in a vacuum. So that we can connect the dots, connect the threads a bit here, I want to discuss of how a lot of them impact each other. For example, there is a push now to reopen to international students, which is a state-by-state system. And how does that impact us? Why is it good? Is it going to take away from Australian seats here, Australians returning from overseas? Generally, no. They've negotiated additional caps for international students. They're going to be putting international student-specific quarantine services. But what does that mean? Is it just helping the big education providers, the universities and the big private providers on a gravy train? Well, not really. Yeah, sure, it helps them, but there's a whole lot of Australians who work here who won't get the sack if the international students come back. So that's a good thing. The international students, they then work at Woolies stacking shelves. They work in our hospitality. They work in a whole range of jobs that we're now lacking in people. So even if Queensland reopens to travellers from New South Wales and Victoria, for example, there won't be enough workers up there right now because there aren't enough people to do the jobs. So we need to open up to give the domestic travel to Queensland, as an example, in order to let those businesses earn money again. But we need to open up to working holiday and international students so that they have staff to service us holiday makers when we go up there. We're in spring, we're coming into spring, summer, autumn picking season. We don't have enough workers here. So now they're trying to reopen the Pacific Labour Scheme, the seasonal worker program, as well as the new agricultural visa, which is from ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries, to bring in another workforce as well. Without those guys coming in, we won't have enough people, so we might get to a food shortage stage where the price of simple fruit and veg in Woolies might go up because they're dying on the vine or dying in the trees, dying on the ground on farms because they can't pick them fast enough. So that's international students and that's these specific labour scheme workers and how we travel. But they all intersect. Nothing happens in a vacuum. So when we talk about what does that matter and how are they going to be managed? Well, there's some big holes in what the states are suggesting about how we open up with the vaccine passport connected to the Australian Immunisation Register, AIR, so that when you scan in, you turn your phone over and you show your AIR status on your COVID vaccination status. I'm dose 1 or I'm fully dosed up, 2 doses. Well, what about these guys who come in on international student specific labour scheme and other types? What about international and maritime crews who come in on, say, a coal ship into Newcastle or a Singapore Airlines crew coming in for a few days in Australia? What about business visa holders, 457s, international students, travellers, even Australians who get vaccinated overseas who don't fall under AIR? Or they might be an Aussie and they've got a Medicare, but because they were vaccinated outside of the Australian system, it doesn't show in AIR. So what do we do about these guys? Let's call them the irregulars for now. What is the government doing about the irregulars? The other group I wanted to talk about briefly was about people who don't have a smartphone. They might be the low socioeconomic, the poorer people in our society. They might be older people who are not confident with technology. What do those guys do if everywhere you have to do is scan in and show on your phone? Because you're going to have some technology now to do it. We're part of something called the Equity Project, where we look at non-digital solutions in a highly digital world. So we created for OnePassport, and this is just an example, a single page which has actually got a printable immunisation register, and it folds up nicely, so you've got a nice little booklet that you can fit in your wallet, fit in your pocket, and it gives you the QR code, it gives you your vaccination status. But there isn't something like that in the apps that are being suggested by the state governments. So what do we do for those people who don't have a smartphone? These are just some of the things, some of the areas that you could drive a truck through right now that we need to answer before we really open up to society using vaccine passports that are solely connected to AIR, the Australian Immunisation Register. It's good, but it's not perfect. So answer the questions, have a look, keep safe, and good luck.